Hi, and welcome to Women in Power Active. I am your host, Jacqueline Gross, and my co host is Erica Mann. And we are interviewing today Sarah McCormack, who is a mountain runner. And I wanted her to start out by telling us a little bit about herself, her background, and kind of how she started basically being active.
Yeah, so I ran since I was little. I grew up in Michigan, and Michigan, where we lived, was very flat. And I was quite into running and into soccer as well. And then, I met Jackie at Michigan State, so that was on the cross country and track team. Jackie can probably attest that I wasn't exactly like setting the world on fire with my running at Michigan State. So I was just sort of, definitely middle of the pack runner would be a kind way of putting it. But yeah, did cross country and track there, and then moved to the UK, where I got into, well, we call it fell running here because very locally the mountains are called fells, but the sport generally is called mountain running. And so got into that, and it's been really fun. Obviously you get to travel some really scenic places, so really enjoying it, apart from right now because I can't travel anywhere.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really fun sport.
I think it's funny, Sarah, that you like have an accent now.
I know. I was like, should I tell her I have a weird accent now? Yeah. I know, it went really weird because like at first I lived in England, but I moved to Ireland and Scotland as well, and then my boyfriend, he's Irish, so like I just get all these different like influences.
Yeah.
So I don't know why.
Nice. I don't blame you. I feel like that happens to me too when I go someplace and then I'll say like a word that's only that they use, like any wherever I visit. And I was like, did I just use? And I'll go with it. I don't know if you guys watched the movie Bridgerton.
Oh,
That
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I was using their terminology recently. I was so into the show.
Yeah.
Like what happened in that day that you first decided to race up a mountain and down a mountain?
Well, I remember because my mom's from this area of the UK, so we'd come here on family holidays, and I remember being quite young and walking up a mountain with my family and seeing, kind of catching the middle of a fell race and seeing people sprinting around, and some of them had like blood pouring out of their knees and stuff, which actually doesn't happen very often. But I just remember looking at them and like being like, what are they doing? So I kind of knew of it from an early age, and I remember always thinking it'd be cool to do, but obviously it's not something that you have in flat areas like Metro Detroit. So it wasn't until I moved to the UK. And even then, I kind of didn't really know how to get started. So eventually I met some people who were into fell running and got into it that way. But it's obviously there's skills involved, like running down rocky descents and things that I'd never really done before, and I wasn't very good at. Even running uphill, like I wasn't particularly strong at running uphill, so I didn't come into it like just finding it easy or anything like that. And I remember going to my first race, and I was so nervous. I was just sick in the first mile of the race. I couldn't keep my breakfast down because I was that nervous. And it ended up going okay. And it's such a friendly sport. Like I did get in a few people's ways because it was a very narrow path on the way down. And like I was just going too slow, but people would just say, oh, excuse me, can I come by? So it's like, no one was there shouting at you like, you're going too slow. So it was fine. And then, eventually I got better at it. And eventually started kind of traveling to other races in Europe and that sort of thing.
Wow, that's very cool. I just like that bloody knees was something that brought you into the sport.
I think it originally scared me off the sport, but yeah, there's a lot of nicer parts of it as well.
Yeah. So do you train differently for mountain running than, like, obviously you ran in college, you were a collegiate athlete, like did you train any different than that, or is there similar like workouts?
Yeah, there's definitely similar elements in terms of like, say, you know, if you're training for a 5K on the road, you might break it down into like 12 by 400 meter repeats or whatever. And the same principles apply to mountain running, where you could do hill reps, or, you know, you could do an uphill tempo for 20 minutes, but a lower intensity than what you do in a race and that kind of thing. But I definitely had a very like track and field mindset when I started training for it. And what I found is like, I do say, you know, 8 2-minute hill reps. And then when it came to actually running uphill for 30 minutes, I wasn't very good because the longest hill I'd run up was 2 minutes. So there's definitely like, I would call it a strength endurance element that takes a long time, or at least for me, took a long time to kind of build up. And especially for the descents, like the kind of forces going through your legs when you're running downhill are so much greater than when you're just running on the flat. So that takes quite a specific kind of strength as well that I didn't really have when I started. And I wouldn't say that I built that strength up very quickly either. So it took me quite a long time and a few sprained ankles to kind of get better at coming downhill. And even now, I wouldn't say it's like my forte, but I'm definitely kind of a lot more confident than I used to be. But yeah, I think the speed element of track and field is still very useful, and is probably still a part of races that I make up places would be on the kind of more runnable, flatter, gradual sections compared to the steep sections. So I think the track background still is like very much a factor for me.
No, it's really interesting. For like that downhill aspect, it's something that I personally work on. So I would be interested, like, what kind of workouts are you doing to like strengthen those specific muscles?
Yeah, a lot of it is just like time on your feet in the hills, and that can be anything as simple as going out for a hike. And certainly something I noticed when I started fell running or mountain running is that I could probably only do it twice a week because it was a lot to recover from, and the rest of my runs would be flat. Whereas now, like, most of my runs would be in the mountains, and if I do too much flat road running, that's when my legs get really sore. So
Oh wow. It's interesting.
I went somewhere flat at Christmas, and I like just about gave myself an injury from trying to do the same kind of amount of training that I do at home. Yeah, just because it's just what your legs get used to. But I think just spending time in the hills, whether that's running at higher intensity and doing kind of an up and down tempo run, or just taking it really easy and walking or lightly jogging, like anytime that you're on a gradient, whether it's up or down, you're going to be gradually building up that kind of strength, even if it doesn't feel like you are at the time. And then obviously, like, you can kind of stress the system even more by going faster, or kind of pushing the intensity, and that would be more of a stimulus kind of if you want to see bigger gains. But obviously balancing that with the injury risk is an important factor as well.
What's your favorite distance to race and why?
I like in Italy there's like a 25K, like I suppose that would be, what would that be, like just over half marathon distance. A lot of races are right around that kind of distance, and I really enjoy that because it tends to, once you've like factored all the mountains in, it tends to take you about 2 hours. And yeah, anything over 3 hours still kind of boggles my mind a little bit. Like I haven't really got my head around the long distances yet. But I kind of would think of that as more of a medium distance mountain race, and I find those fun because you can still go quite fast when you hit a more gradual section. But the other great thing about mountain racing is, like, sometimes when you hit a steep climb, the most efficient thing to do is just power hike it. So you kind of get those mental and kind of physical breaks in the race where you're not just trying to maintain a single pace the entire time. So then you can kind of attack the parts that suit you better as well.
A random question that I've been thinking about, and you're doing a lot of up and down running, is that I have been running uphill and my heart rate is like fine. Like I could get just like steep climbs I'm like really consistent with. But then when I go to run downhill, I was experiencing some like heart rate spikes of like, 180 or like almost 200. Like it got really high. And obviously I'm expecting expelling energy that way, and it doesn't feel hard when I'm doing that. How do you like combat that to keep your like heart rate manageable on like the down?
I think, I mean, again, I'm not like the world's best descender, but if you look at the people who are like Killian Jornet, he just looks really relaxed
Uh-huh.
and almost as if he almost looks kind of floppy, as if like if he fell, it almost wouldn't be very painful. Whereas I think like you know, we can hold a lot more tension and sort of get almost kind of more rigid and use more muscle action than we need to, especially if it's like a technical descent that you're sort of like thinking really hard about or whatever. And so I think sometimes you can actually get a bit less efficient on those just by tensing up and kind of, yeah, just not necessarily just relaxing into it. So I don't know if that's something where like, and for me as well, when I'm trying to kind of improve on the descent in a training run, I get to something where I'm like, yeah, I'm really not in my comfort zone here, then I just slow it right down as well and kind of try and find something that works a bit better. So yeah, I think the thing I've found to improve on my own descending is kind of slowing it down and trying to take a lot of the tension out of my body. And if you fall over, then you're not kind of as tensed up anyway. So theoretically,
Yeah.
you won't as hard.
Yeah. I know sometimes I'm just like, I probably am going to fall. So it's just gonna happen. I'll accept it, and then you
Yeah.
get a little less nervous about it. But there's sometimes when like when I was in Arizona and like there was really rocky sections of it, and I was like, if I fall here, this is going to feel terrible. Like they're super sharp rocks. And that's when
Yeah.
you probably do tense up a little more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Here, like we have kind of rocks, but it'd be mixed with like really mucky, like peaty conditions. And we've had a bit of snow. And then when the snow melts, it just turns to like complete slop. So sometimes I find if you tell people beforehand you're gonna fall over, then it kind of makes it less embarrassing when it happens.
Right.
What's your biggest success on your trails?
I was really proud this year of I won a few races in Italy that were they have different national championships, and so there was a long distance and a VK and a relay championships all over on different weekends, and so somehow in a way that will never happen again, I managed to win those 3 races, and that was just really special for me because Italy would be kind of the home of mountain running in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of other countries that might contest that, but I think for the kind of definition of mountain running that we use when we go to the World Championships and the European Championships, it's largely based around the kind of Italian style mountain running. And they have a great history and culture around mountain running there. So yeah, and it's just a place where I visit a lot, and I really, really love Italy. So it meant a lot to kind of come away with those wins, which is just completely unexpected. And as I say, I'm not expecting to kind of repeat that. I think I need to maybe change up my races for next year so that I don't kind of fall into that trap of just trying to repeat a success that I've achieved, and kind of create some different goals where I'm not putting that kind of expectation on myself. Not that I don't think I can, you know, have another good season, but I think sometimes if you just go back to the same races and try and replicate results from previous years, you're kind of putting unnecessary pressure around that race rather than just going and seeing what a different mountain is like in a different route and meeting different people. And that's the great thing about mountain running is that you always end up somewhere scenic, and you end up with people who love the mountains as well. So yeah, even though it was cool, I think like I don't want to just try and do that again. I want to do something different.